I'm here again. But I'd like to introduce Katie. Katie and I are going to talk to you a little bit about HRP Queer. Katie's going to talk about the search for an inclusive church, and I'm going to talk about what we've been doing. So I asked Katie how she'd like to be introduced, and I'm going to read to you what she sent to me. I'm originally from Georgia, born and raised in the Southern Baptist Church where my father is an ordained minister. I want to just pause and let that sink in. If that's okay. I was heavily involved in all aspects of the church: children's choir, youth choir, praise band, orchestra, youth leadership, vacation Bible school, soccer coach, you name it, until I left home for college, eventually moving to New York for a career in advertising. Katie goes on to say, now I am 28 years old, identify as a queer bisexual with the pronouns she, they, married almost 7 years to a loving spouse creature, and attending South Church in Dobbs Ferry. And Katie's going to talk about the challenge, I think, of finding an inclusive church. It's my pleasure to introduce Katie.
When Kathy asked if I could come to speak to y'all about radical hospitality, I was more than happy to, because it's a story that kind of defines me. I was not sure if I was ever going to go to church again. After being raised in the church as a child, it made so much sense to me. Love, compassion, mercy, forgiveness, good, evil. The message was easy to follow. And the community that raised me practiced it, loved it, believed it, from what I saw. And the older I got, a kernel of discomfort started to grow. When I realized that the community that loved me, that showed me how to live out my faith in my life, had a limited definition of community. They wouldn't say that of themselves, but it was felt by friends at school who didn't feel comfortable coming with me to church when I invited them, or who visited and then never came back. And then I got a little older and my friends started coming out, and I watched them hate themselves and try to pray it away and try to change themselves to fit into their families, into their Sunday schools, into the life that they had known, and feel after nothing changed for them that they had no other choice but to leave wholesale, to abandon church, to abandon their families, to abandon God. And I didn't know how to feel about everything. It was very confusing. But I knew that the message I had been taught as a child was not being lived to those I saw leave the church, that they were hurting. And it felt like I had two options. I could stay in the church and ignore the pain that I knew was there, or I could also leave wholesale and leave it all behind. And that didn't feel fair. So I didn't make any choice. I just stopped going on Sundays. It was easy because I had moved to New York. I was in a new environment. No one was making me go every Sunday morning, but that kernel of discomfort still was there because I still believed. It took some time to reflect on what I truly believed, what I knew in my heart, and what that meant in the world I saw around me. A lot of internalized injustice and homophobia processing, trauma processing, and even then, I wasn't sure if I was ever going to go to church again. But I came back to the choice. Fit in the box or leave wholesale, and I replaced it with either queerness is a part of God's plan, or I want nothing to do with God. And I know I don't want that because I've already been here before. So that must mean the other thing. And still I wasn't sure if I was ever going to go to church again, because I didn't know how I was going to reconcile this conviction in myself with what I had been demonstrated was the church. I didn't see how it would be possible. But in 2021, when I moved to Dobbs Ferry, I would walk across Broadway to get froyo, to go to dinner, to go to Stop and Shop, and I would pass this church with a giant pride flag out front. And I would say to my spouse preacher, I don't know if I'm ever going to church again, but if I did, that's the kind of place it would be. And it took walking by that church, walking by that flag every day for a year before I had the courage to go inside. And the welcome, the expectation. I grew up in an environment where you were loved and cherished as long as you looked and behaved the way that they thought you should. And no one was asking anything of me. And about 3 months into sitting in that pew like a scared deer ready to bolt at any second, I woke up and I realized, oh, I'm queer. That's what I had been missing. Safety. And I found it at South Church, and it's been a blessing.
Nice.
Thank you.
I'm supposed to talk now? I think Katie's testimony speaks to why we need HRP Queer. There's nothing more to say, except that you have one more thing to say. One of the projects we've been working on over the summer is on hymnals. Language is very important. And some of our hymns, while we may love them and love singing them, have we have some difficulty with the words. And so we hired an intern, Benjamin Lowe, who is studying, actually was at Montreat doing a hymn writing workshop, which worked out real well, and who is studying to be a music teacher. And he worked all summer on an inclusive language hymnal. Now, inclusive language is broad. So some of us have difficulty with the image of a male God, God the Father. And works for you, that's great, but for some of us it doesn't. So we wanted some hymns that we know and love to be possibly reworked. We know that there's a whole volume of hymns that none of us really sing in church because they're not in either of our hymnals. And so Ben found some of those. And so if you go to the Presbytery website and you click on partnerships and you click on HRP Queer, Casey's put a link right to this hymnal. The hymns are there. Please be aware that some of these hymns will require permission to be used, and we can help you with that, but I hope you will be as pleased and as amazed as we were with the breadth and depth of how we might change the things that we sing in church to make everybody comfortable. And with that, that's the report from HRP Queer. Thank you.